वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh. Up till now, we have tried to understand what exactly is God. Now, what we are going to try, how this universe came into being when He was ready. So to understand that, we start with Arbad, Narbad, Tundukara. Arbad. If you calculate Akai Dahai Sankada Hayat Dahya Lakh crore Arb. It's a billion. Narbad. Narbad, we can call it infinity to make it simple, but Narbad means something else. It is also infinity because it has come many times, universe collapsed and it expanded again. So Guru had to use what God asked him to do. So it is called Narbad. Arbad, Narbad, Tundukara means there was a misty, means the particles were appearing. You know something, let me tell you something, how it happens. When the particles were appearing, there was a particle and an antiparticle. Particle and antiparticle, when they collide together, they annihilate each other. Once they annihilate each other, then what happens? Heat is either produced or lost. So when heat is produced, heat travels by three ways: conduction, convection, and radiation. So when the two things were annihilating, heat was either produced or lost. So to take that place, if it is hot or cool, energy used to come, and as the particles were appearing, that the opaqueness, that's not opaqueness, the clearliness, that the roop and a rake and a rang, that started changing. So it became a foggy mass. That is how the foggy mass came into being. So that Tundukara is the foggy mass. So the form of God has changed from रूप न रेख न रंग किछ त्रै गुण ते प्रभ भिन्न तिसे बुझावे नानका जिस होवे so प्रसन्न. Now that is changing. God is making blueprints for the creation of this universe. So he says Arbad, Narbad, Tundukara, from billion to infinity time ago, Tarana, Nagagana, Hukumapara. There was no earth-like thing, nor there was a space, but his hukum was going in that Tundukara state, where the expansion has not occurred yet. Na din ran, na chand na suraj. At that time, there were no days, no nights. Na chand na suraj. There was no moon, no sun. Sun samad lagayenda. In that place, in that empty place, there was nothing there. He himself was there. Samad lagayenda means, he was working to create the universe. To translate that, from billion to infinity years ago, God was in a foggy mass. There was no earth, no sky, only the will of God. There was no day or night, no moon or sun, only God sitting in meditation as a foggy mass. So the whole foggy mass was God. He was sitting in there. Khani na Baani, paun na pani, opat khapat na avan jani. Khand patal, sapat nahi sagar, nadi na neer bahain. These things were not there. No existence of matter or speech, for that matter, any air or water, no product, no consumption, no coming or going, no continents, no netherworlds, no seven seas, and no rivers. Nadi na neer bahain. Na tad surg mach payala. दोजक पिस्त नहीं खे काला, नरक सुर्ग नहीं जमन मरना, ना को आए ना जाएंदा. There's a myth. They believe there's a dojak, there's a hell, or there's a piss, or call it paradise. Of course, the Sikh doesn't believe in them. Both. He says, you know, although the Hindu mythology believes it, Islam believes in it, both these things were never there. Narak surg nahi jamman marna, na ko aaye na jayenda. There was no life on, above, or below yet. There was no heaven or hell, no death there, no coming or going. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh na koi. This is again Hindu mythology. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh na koi. Avarna dise eko soi. So whatever the creation is a mythical thing, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, these were not there. Avarna dise eko soi. At the moment only God was there. That invisible foggy mass, the what do you call metamorphism sort of thing was going on inside. God was creating how the universe is to be created. Nar purukh nahi jaat na janma, na koi dukh sukh paenda. There was no Brahma, Vishnu or Mahesh. No other was to be seen, only God. There were no female or male, no caste or birth, and no one to suffer pain or pleasure. Na tad jati sati banvasi, na tad siddh sadhak sukhvasi, jogi jangam pekh na koi, na ko nath kahaenda. There was none who had given up lusts, or anyone who lived in jungles, because there were none. There was none who could show miracles, nor were any yogis or jangams, that is a Hindu ascetic who wears matted hair and rings a bell. I've seen in good old days. जब तब संजम ना व्रत पूजा, ना को आँख वखाने दूजा, आपे आप उपाय विग से आपे कीमत पाएंदा. There was none who recite God, because there was none, nor any saints who punish themselves for achievement. You know, some people, they give a lot of punishment to their own body, and not a very nice thing, but they were not there. There were none who show other the way. Only God was creating himself. So metamorphism and feeling happy, and only he knew his value. There was nothing else. Na such sanjam tulsi mala, gopi kan na gau gwala, tant mant pakhand na koi, na ko vans bajayenda. There were no ways of cleansing oneself. There were no milkmaids for Krishna, nor the herdsman for cow. There were no magicians, pretenders, nor any Krishna was playing the flute. They were not there. Karma tarma nahi maya makhi, जात जन्म नाही दिसे आखी, ममता जाल काल नहीं माथे, ना को किसे ध्याएंदा. There was no karma or dharma or maya, the attraction. Caste and births were not to be seen. There were no snares of affection, nor death was stalking anybody, because there was none. And no one was worshipping anybody, because there was nobody. निंद बिंद नहीं जियो न जिंदो, ना तद गोरख ना माछिंदो, ना तद ज्ञान ध्यान कुल ओपत, ना को गणत गणाएंदा. Nind bind means also something else, but here I made it simple because reproductive system was not a nind bind, well, let's make it a bit simpler. There were none speaking of evil or appreciation. Gorkh or Mashindra were nowhere to be seen. Knowledge and meditation were not there in any sort of calculation existed. वरण पेख नहीं ब्राह्मण खत्री, देव ना देवरा गाऊ गायत्री, होम जग नहीं तीर्थ नामा, ना को पूजा लाएंदा. There were no castes or religions, divisions as Brahmins and Kshatriyans, no God with a small g mind, no temple, no cow or Gayatri. There were no rituals or ritual sacrifices, no bathing at holy places, nor any performance of worship. Nako mullah, nako kaji, Islam still hasn't come up. Nako sheikh musahik haji, rayat rao na home duniya, nako gant kahainda. There was no mullahs, no imams, there were no sheikh or pilgrim to Mecca. There was no king or his subjects, nor was any ego. पाओ न भक्ति ना शिव शक्ति, साजन मीत बिंद नहीं रखती, आपे शाह आपे वंजारा, साचे यही पाएंदा. Love for God or ways to please Him were not there, nor God's power could be felt. Neither friends and companions, nor they were yet in mother's womb. He himself was the master, merchant, and himself was a trader as it pleased him. Ved, Kateb, and Simra Sastra. Vedas from Hindus, Katebas, the three books, of this Western world. Na Simrat Sastra, Part, Puran, Uday nahi asat, कहता बख्ता आप अगोचर आपे अलख लखाइंदा. There were no Vedas or Katebas or Simratis or Shastras. There were no readings of Purans at sunrise or sunset. God Himself was a dictator and listener of His orders, as He was in readiness stage to embark. And His orders were beyond writing and complex. Jatis Pana, when He wanted, Ta Jagat Upaya. Baj Kala Adan Rahaya, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh Upaye, Ape Mo Vadhainda. When He willed, He created the universe without any support. There is no support in between. There is nothing that is making this earth to stand. There is no other support except but His laws and the laws of gravitation, you can call it. He created the universe without any support. He created Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, that's the mythical figures, and material temptations. विरले को गुर शब्द सुनाया, विरले को गुर शब्द सुनाया, कर कर देखे हुक्म सबाया, खंड ब्रह्मांड पताल आरंभे, गुप्तों प्रगटी आया. To very few humans, God revealed His sermon. He exercised His order on the universe and watched over that. He created continents in the universe and netherworlds and appeared invisibly in his creation, because God created from Nirgun to Sargun. It also says Nirgun te Sargun bhaya. So it was God who created this. Taka ant na jane koi is so big. Pure gurte soji hoi. Nanak saach ratte bismadi bism pae gun gainda. No one knows his limits. Only from the true spiritual teacher comes realization. Nanak says, those who are saturated in his wonderful truth takes delight in singing his praises. That's the way to know God, by singing his praises. Kai baar, like I said before, kai baar pasryo pasar sada sada ek oankar. Many times this expansion took place and went back to original form again of one God as energy. Ekke soot proe maniye. Now I'm going to reverse the whole thing, how it comes to an end. Ekke soot proe maniye. Gathi pin pin taniye. Firti mala bobid pai. Khitya soot aaye thain. You know, like I explained to you before, that it is like the beads that has been put through a thread, and that is how this universe is standing with the gravitational pull. The beads are strung upon one thread, the gravitation, by different ways and diverse notes. You know, it's there's one thing attracting one thing, then the same thing attracting that, and it's such a complicated way. Earth is being pulled by moon, the sun, and many other ways. You know, it has been very complicated ways they are. You know, how this universe is standing as it is, that's his wisdom, God's wisdom. The beads are strung upon the thread gravitation by different ways and diverse notes. They are tied and kept separate on strings. They all separate. You can see nothing is colliding with nothing. The beads are in motion. You can see the whole universe is in gardish or in motion in various ways. Like we can see the moon is going around the earth, and earth in itself with the moon is going around the sun. So it's a very many different ways, you know, this universe is standing the way it is. The beads are in motion in various ways by the string. When the thread is pulled, if the gravitational pull is, he takes it away, the beads all come together in one place. And as the universe is coming nearer and nearer, as he's pulling the gravitational thing, all the universe come together, getting hot and changing back to lower and lower elements, and eventually what becomes? It becomes the energy again. Like I said, kai baar pasryo pasar sada sada ink. This is how the universe comes to an end. एक पर पंच खेल किया सब करते, हर करते सब कलतारे, हर एको सूत वर्ते जग अंतर, सूत खिच्चे एक अंकारी. It's the same thing explained again, how the universe comes to an end. All drama, this is a drama, this is play. All drama of universe is set in motion by the Creator, and He has infused His might into all. The thread of God runs through the universe. That is the gravitation, actually. The way only I understand. I don't know, there might be many other ways. The thread of God runs through the universe. When He pulls that thread, the Creator comes back to its original form of oneness. Oneness, not oneness. That is how it becomes again Roop and a rek and a rang kuch tre gunte pram, it comes back into it. And then it starts all over again. Ape andaj, jeraj, setaj, utpuj, ape khand, ape sab loe, ape soot, ape boh maniya, kar shakti jagat proe. Ape hi soot tar hai pyara, soot khiche, tat teri hoye. This is another way of explaining. Many nests born out of eggs. Now we are coming on this planet Earth. Many nests born out of these eggs from womb, parasites grown out of earth, in God Himself. Everything is in God. He Himself is the continent and galaxies. He Himself is the thread of gravitation. And He Himself is the beads, stars and galaxies. With His power, He has strung the world. He Himself is the thread, that is gravitation. The beads, the stars and the galaxies fall back into that heap where he pulls the string. As He pulls the string, the whole thing will come to the place where He wants. That is going back into energy again. Jiste upajya Nanaka, soi fir hua. Guru Nanak says, O Nanak, from what the creation was born, kabao, atandukara, we call it, will be formed the same again. Jiste upajya Nanaka, soi fir hua. Means it goes back to the energy again. Kithon upje keh rahe, keh mein samaye. Kithon upje, from where the whole thing was born, as is said. What I've been explaining in nutshell will go back in the same one. I mean, everything will go together again from whatever the whole thing has come. In that it goes back. Jiste upje tisme parvesh, from where it emanated, in Him it will merge. Tart akash patal hai, chand sur binasi, they are all perishable, my friend. The earth, the invisible energy, in space as well. The nether regions, the moon, the sun will pass away or get destroyed. They will go back into energy again. Jo dise so binsana, sab bins banasi. Whatever is seen shall perish and will dissolve and disappear into energy, of course. हर एको सूत वर्ते जुग अंतर, सूत खिंचे एकंकारी. There is only one thread of gravitation in the universe. As He pulls that thread, it becomes one energy of God again. खेल संकोचे तो नानक एके. When he closes his play, the whole thing becomes one God again, says Nanak. So universe will come to an end to become just energy, and then again the universe will emerge out of it. This has happened many times before. Kawau is a word, that I want to explain, because so many call kawau as a sound, which is not right. I explain it here, understanding the kawau as the body of God. Lakh daryao kawau vich, lakh lehar tarang uthande. Ikkis lehar tarang vich, lakh daryao wahande. इक्कस दरियाओं विच लख अवतार आकार फिरंदे, मच्छ कच्छ मर जी बड़े, अगम अथा न हाथ लहंदे, परवरदिगार अपार है, पारावार न लहन तरंदे, अजरावर सतगुर पुरख, गुरमुत गुरसिख अजर जरंदे, करण बंदगी विरले बंदे. So what it means is, so if you look at this picture, for example, in that picture, when particles were being formed, there was an antiparticle. They'll come together, annihilate each other, go back into energy. Heat was produced or lost. And when heat was produced or lost, the energy from the colder places will go to the hotter places will go to the colder places. So in a way, the movement of matter, because the matter, in a matter, it can, the energy or the heat energy travels in three different ways: conduction, convection, and radiation. The matter was already started making into it, into the universe, and in there, so many rivers, they start flowing. There were some rivers, they were very hot, they were going out. But there were some rivers, they were going back in to a colder place. So on this picture, what you see, there are some yellow spots, there are some red spots, there are some blue spots. Blues are cold. The yellow ones they are showing is the mediumly hot, and the red one you see is very hot. But inside there is, I'll give you one more example. We got a heart. In that heart, the blood goes away through the arteries when it pumps. So as the blood goes away from it, then the veins, they collect that blood. Once they collect that blood, it brings it back to the heart again. Similarly, here, once the particles are made, heat is produced, the rivers, they start going out, and then they start coming in. Because this is such a huge thing and it has become matter, in that matter, there's a pressure of gravitational pressure. When you look at sun, I'll take the picture of a sun, I'll show you how it works. Most probably I have. And in that sun, the same thing happened. Outside is a crest there, and inside the pressure was so much that it simply expanded, or they call it Big Bang, and that is how this universe came into being. So that is, our Guru says. But when Einstein says for every 1 billion antiparticle, there is 1,000,001 particles. So there's a difference of one that created the universe. One little particle cannot produce universe. It was very big to start with. So the new theory that is called quantum gravity is coming to more or less say that universe was very big to start with, is very big now, is even bigger now, and then it will shrink, it will come back to energy. Think, it makes logical sense. So much matter you see, if you change back it into energy, obviously it's going to take a lot more space. So when it goes back, because at the moment the universe is expanding and there's a space in between, and in that space is energy, and that energy is keeping the whole thing into control. The God is in two forms, the solid forms, that is the visible ones, and then there's the invisible one, that is the energy which is keeping the whole universe in one place. So when the whole thing collapses, it comes to this. But this is when it comes to a point, when there's roop and a rekh and a rang ke chitra gunte prabh pin. Those three properties are not there. No roop, no rekh, no rang. But then again, the whole thing starts again. His play starts matter started appearing, then antimatter started appearing, then the flow of energy starts flowing. Lakh Daryao Kawao, which in the body of God there are hundreds of thousands of rivers. That is what it is. And here you can, I show you another picture if I can. This one is another picture, you know, when maybe it is the initial state when there was not that much heat. So there are blueprints, you know, which are showing the coldness. The red things, you know, and the yellow thing, red is hot, and the yellow thing, that is, you know, it is not that hot, however. So I have come to a conclusion. There are 100,000 rivers in Kawao, the body of God, the holy grain. Please don't call that Kawao a word, where God said one word and the universe came into being. Is wrong. I disagree. I respect them who say it. There are many scholars, those who are saying it, but I do not agree with them, because I can give you a Kawao's definition, which is the body of God. So there are 100,000 rivers in a Kawao, in a holy grain, and there are 100,000 times, 100,000 waves originating in them. In one wave that originated, there are further 100,000 rivers. Like the blood capillaries, like I explained, the blood capillaries at the end of the artery and in the beginning of the vein. Further, in each river, there are 100,000s of avtaras, you know, because I was there as well, you were there as well. There were avtaras form in the making. Avtaras like self-denying, Koch, Mach, well, you name them, you know, who are in the making there, cannot find the limits of that, how big is the universe. Creator is beyond limits, and those swimmers in there cannot find the limits. The Sikh learner, the Sikhs are learners of God. The Sikh, the learners, tolerate the teaching of God. Very few in this world meditate on His virtues. So we must sing the praises, the qualities of God. That is how we'll find God. I give you one more example of Kawao, why Kawao is the body of God. Kevad ek Kawao pasao karaya. How big is that body? From where the expansion took place. Kevad kanda tol tolaya. Is there any scale, you know, that can measure the weight of it? Kar Brahmand Karod Kawao Budhaya. Kar Brahmand, He made galaxies and it was expanding out. Lakh lakh tart akash adar taraya. Paun pani besantar lakh upaya. Lakh charasi jon khel rachaya. Jon jon ji jant ant na paya. Sir sir lekh lakhaye. Alekh tyaya. There is no lekh written on God, because He is the master. How big is one Kawao which inflated? How big could be the scale for weighing that one weight of universe? Kawao expanded to create millions of galaxies. Further, hundreds of thousands of planets and skies were created and put in their places without visible support. Air, water, and latent heat of hundreds of thousands type were created. A living world of 8.4 million types of lives were created for play. It was evolution. In each species there are so many lives which are beyond counting. The fate of every living organism was written, and yet God is beyond fate. पौन पानी तरी सब धरती जल अग्नि का बंद किया. God created air. The very first thing He created was hydrogen, and then gradually helium, and then oxygen was created. God created air and established the planet Earth. Heat and water were intertwined. You see, if a chemical reaction takes place, hydrogen combines with oxygen to make water. Heat is either produced or lost. So this is how higher and higher elements were made, and eventually the evolution started, and that after 4.8 million types of species, the humans were made. I will come to that. साचे ते पवना भया पवने ते जल होए जल ते त्रिपवन साजिया घट घट जोत समोए. Water is also a life. From God was created the air, and from air water was created. He created three worlds, as above us, in parallel to our world, and below us. Creator is saturated everywhere. सूरज किरण मिले जल का जल हुआ राम. ज्योति ज्योत रली संपूर्ण थी आराम. If you understand Punjabi, jal, jajja, lalla, jal. Then there is a word called jajja, lalla, and then there is an ankar underneath. Suraj kiran mile, jal is a plural. When you put ankar underneath, becomes singular. Suraj kiran, in the presence of sunlight. Two components of water, that is hydrogen and oxygen, combine together to form water as one substance, jal, with the ankar underneath. Energy mixed with the energy, because they are both energies, whether it is a hydrogen or it is an oxygen. At the end of the day, it's an energy. Energy mixed with energy to form the complete essence of God. Jalat Agni Milat Neer. Fire burns and produces water. When an organic substance burns, water is a byproduct. People, those who study organic chemistry, they'll understand that when the organic thing burns, water is always a byproduct. Jal, now how this, how I would say life emerged. Jal, Trang, Agni, Pavane, Fun Tramil, Jagat Upaya. ऐसा बलछल तिनको दिया हुक्मी ठाक रहा. Water waves, if there are water waves and the oxygen is there, they try to absorb the oxygen in them. The water absorbs oxygen. Water waves, heat and air. Air has got oxygen. All three constituent together created the living world. God gave such a complicated technique to the above three to establish life, and that is restrained with his order. Akhar Mandali, Taran Sabai, Upar Gagan Chandua, Pavan Vichola, Karta Akela, Chalte Opat Hoya. Panch Tat Kar Putra Kina, Kirt Milawa Hoya. Planet Earth acted as a stage covered over by sky. Air acted as a catalyst, oxidizing agent for water. And from water, life started. Life started in water. In the very simple form, microbes. Koi na kise jiya upaya, God always creates the difference between them. That's how the evolution started. I'll talk to it a bit further. It took 5 basic ingredients to start life. It hasn't come from any other planet, what the scientists are thinking. It took 5 basic, and what are those? Air, water, soil, heat, and sky. And their complicated actions combined together resulted life, the microbes, the very, very original form of life. मेरे प्रभ साचे एक खेल रचाया. It's interesting to understand. मेरे प्रभ साचे एक खेल रचाया, कोई ना किसे जिया पाया. आपे फर्क करे कर वेख विग से, सब रस देही माहा है. A play was created by my true God, and in his play he never created one who is similar to another. He himself creates the difference and enjoys watching all the variant essence in his body. Let me make it a bit simpler. Say you must have seen twins, and you must have seen identical twins. When they are all produced from one egg, one egg, when it gets fertilized, two identical, and if it breaks, two identical twins are formed. When two identical twins are formed, so obviously because it's the same genetic thing, so they must look alike. But do they? If you look at their fingerprints, you take their fingerprints, they are different. And inside the body, no matter they are coming from one egg, still inside somewhere they're different. And if you look closely, you can tell the difference between them. So that means that is evolution. And Guru explains further about evolution. आपे फर्क कीतों घट अंतर आपे बंत बना बनया. God himself created the difference in the creation, and that creation he created himself. Now in this evolution, कई जन्म भय कीट पतंगा, कई जन्म गज मीन कुरंगा, कई जन्म पंखी सर्प होयो, कई जन्म हैवर ब्रिख जोयो. Many lives a human has been through the lives of an ant, a winged insect. Many lives a human has been through elephant, fish, deer. Many lives a human was a bird, a snake. Many lives a human has been through horses or yoked oxen. Means we have come through gradually, eventually a human is born. As a human we can understand God, and once we understand God with our soul, we can merge with him. This is a reality. मिल जगदीश मिलन की बरिया, चिरंकाल ए दे सजरिया. O human, meet God. It is your turn to meet God. After a long journey through evolution, you have obtained the human body. कई जन्म सैल गिर करया, कई जन्म गर्भ हिर हरया, कई जन्म साख कर उपाया, लख 84 जोन परमाया. It took 8.4 million types of species, after that human was evolved. Many of your previous lives, you were through pregnancy aborted. Many of your previous lives, you were grown as vegetation. God has put you through 8.4 million types of plants, animals, made you transmigrate, then you became a human. लख 84 परमते परमते दुर्लभ जन्म अब पायो. After going through 8.4 million types of lives, you have now acquired a priceless human life. लख 84 जोन सबाई मानस को प्रभ दी वड्याई. इस पौड़ी ते जो नर चूके सो आए जाए दुख पाएंदा. God created 8.4 million types of species, 8.4 million types of lives. Human life is honored amongst them. He who slips from the ladder suffers back into transmigration. भई प्राप्त मानक देहोरिया गोबिंद मिलन की है तेरी बरिया. You have obtained human life now. You have obtained human body. This is your turn to meet God. A human being, let me quote one example from Einstein, which is very, very beautiful. That is very much like Sikhism. A human life is part of the whole called by us the universe. A human life, a human being is part of the whole called by us the universe, a part, a little part, limited in time because we got limited life and space. We live in a little space. We experience ourselves, one thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us, our relations. Our task must be to free ourselves from the prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty, because it's all created by the Almighty God. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive. We are not going that way though. We Sikhs should start this. What is a perfect human being? I'm cutting the story short now. For survival of human race, God has told us, Guru Nanak, to convey these message to the humanity, and that's in, I take a Sanskrit shlok. Mantran Ram Ram Namang Dhyanang Sarvatra Purne Jnanang Sam Dukh Sukhang Jugat Nirmal Nirvairane Dyalang Sarvatra Jiya Panch Dok Bivarjate Bhojanang Gopal Kirtan Alap Maya Jal Kamal Rahte Updeshang Sat Mitra Satra Bhagwant Bhagat Bhavani Parninda Nasrot Sarvan Aap Tyag Sagal Ranke Khat Lakshan, these 6 things. Khat Lakshan Puran Purkhe Nanak Naam Sad Savajjane. I translate that into English. Through the magic of his name, Ram Ram, means singing the qualities, the Naam, the qualities of God, Salah, the qualities of God. One meditates on the omnipotent God. They have the wisdom to understand those pains and pleasures are alike. See, they are both the same. Dukh sukh do dar kapde pehre jaye manuk. Wisdom to understand those pains and pleasures are alike. Live immaculately without vengeance. They are kind to all beings and have overpowered the 5 evils. Singing the praises of God become their food, have least attachment to worldly entanglements as a lotus in the water. They share the teachings equally with the friends or with the foes. They love devotion and worship of God. They do not listen to the slander, renouncing self-conceit, and remain as the dust of the feet of the fellow humans. Whoever has these 6 qualities are complete humans. O Nanak, such saints are the friends of God. That is the way to merge with God. I'll give you another example of 9th Guru. जो नर दुख में दुख नहीं माने, सुख स्नेह और पै नहीं जाके, कंचन माटी माने रहाओ. A man who in his difficult times does not feel hurt, in his comfortable times is not overjoyed, in affection does not become attached, in fear is not afraid, and he values the gold or the clay the same. न निंदया, न उस्तत जाका, लोभ मोह अभिमाना, हर्ख सोगते रहे न्यारो, नाहे मान अपमाना. He does not talk slander about others, nor does he flatter others to get the better out of him. He is never greedy. He never becomes attached to materialistic goods, nor he possesses ego. He stays unattached to happiness or sadness, neither blows his own trumpets, nor insults anybody. Asa, mansa, sagal tyage, jagte rahe nirasa, काम क्रोध जै परसे नाहिन, तै कट ब्रह्म निवासा. He stays above hopes and desires. Sex for lust and anger do not touch him, do not touch his mind, and such is an ideal soul for the residence of God. That is where God can reside. गुर कृपा जै नर को कीनी, तैं ए जुगत पछाणी, नानक लीन भयो गोबिंद स्यों, क्यों पानी संग पानी. Whoever is blessed with such kindness from Guru, that is God, then these qualities are understood by him, O Nanak. Such a human being become one with God as water mixes with water. If you put some water into water, you cannot take that water out. Similarly, if a soul merges with the Almighty, Atma merges with Paramatma, you cannot take that out. You become one with God. So the summary, what I've talked so far is, God created himself as a palpable energy. God created himself as a palpable energy. Energy changed into particles of matter in a very early form. Particles and antiparticles started annihilating each other and go back in the energy. Heat was produced or lost there, and that led to the movement as heat was produced or lost there. Thus, rivers of energy started flowing in Kavau, or body of God, or God's body. The blueprints of universe were in the making. It took 36 ages to do that. That is taken the Hindu mythology of 4 yugas, and similarly the 36 ages. It took a long time for God. There was only 4 ages since the universe came into being, and they are called Kali Yuga, Treta, Dwapar, and Satyug. God created the universe when he was ready to embark. Inflation took place and resulted the universe that we see today. Movements in time and time existed in God as He was creating the universe before the Big Bang. So time goes back to infinity. In fact, it is Akal. There was no beginning. We do not know. It is, Akal is beyond time. That paradox is out. Guru Nanak describes those times as the such. Such does not mean here the speaking of truth. God is not like that. Such means you take 1 kilogram of water, change into hydrogen, oxygen, combine it together again, it is still 1 kilo. Vada na hove, kaat na jave. God has got its only limit. What energy God has is the same energy is still there. So God, it doesn't mean that God is the truth. Although I have written the truth to make it simplified, to make it simpler. Jugad such. Ever since God created himself, he was the same. Jugad such. In the time, the ages, 36 ages we describe, he was the truth. Habi such. He is the truth or the same now. Nanak hosi bhi such. Guru Nanak says, in the future, he will be the same. Na kaat hain, na baad hain, na kaat baad hot hain. Ever since God created himself and as impalpable energy and particles started appearing in it, another thing proves that energy has a volume. Not many scientists talk about it. Jugad such, ever since God created universe, has been the 4 ages. There is the truth in all ages, means he is the same in all ages. Have he such, he is the truth now, he is the truth now and in present time. Nanak hosi be such, so he is the truth, in future, he will be the truth in future to come. There's a myth amongst the scientists that there is a universe now and it occurs spontaneously, will last forever, or may go back into the origin. Guru says that universe have inflated many times before and has collapsed. This has happened many times before, but always remained one God. The difference between Sikhism and other religions is that God is energy saturated in everything, the matter, the space, including the humans, other animals and plant kingdoms, whereas the other religions preach God as a separate identity who created this earth and the other creations. I believe Sikhism is teaching the reality or the truth about science is looking for. Truth means the total energy of the God neither decreases nor increases. He stays the same even with his inflation or changes back into impalpable energy. I hope I have been of some use to you. Thank you very much for listening to me, your humble servant. My name is Daljit Singh Baring. Forgive me if I have done anything wrong or have offended anybody. I ask for the forgiveness from everybody if somebody is annoyed. But this is how I understand Guru Granth Sahib, and this is how I have explained. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.